Hello and welcome back to Bicycle Legs and another edition of Bicycle Legs Discovers Rush. And today I have another wonderful guest from the RushFans community, Mr. Eric Winter. Eric, thank you so much for doing this with me.
My pleasure. I enjoy the series you're putting together here and enjoy this album. I love it to death. It's very near and dear to my heart. So excited to be here.
Great. So if you could just fill my viewers in a little bit on which album you've picked, a little bit of the background behind that album, and most importantly, why you wanted to do this album with me for the series.
Sure. So the album we are going to be taking a look at today is Vapor Trails. It is Rush's 17th studio album. It was released May 14th of 2002. So this was released about 5 years after uh, their most recent tour at the time, which was the Test for Echo tour that ended in 1997. And shortly after, Neil's daughter tragically passed away in a car crash. And a few months after that, his wife passed away of cancer. He would go on to say it was more or less of grief. So it was these terrible tragedies. Neil essentially told Getty and Alex at his daughter's funeral, consider me retired. And that was that. And then after his wife passed away, he went on this some 60,000-mile motorcycle tour from the northernmost part of North America down all the way through Central America, maybe even into South America, just trying to find something, trying to run from something, whatever it was, he just had to go. And so eventually it comes to 2001, and he's maybe starting to get the itch to write again. Getty's starting to get the itch to write again. He's done his solo album at this point, My Favorite Headache. Have you taken a listen to My Favorite Headache yet?
No, not yet.
That should be on your list. It's a great solo album from Geddy Lee. So Geddy's got the itch to write again. Alex has got the itch, and Neil has, come around to the idea of starting to write with Rush again. So they come up with this idea where we're going to sit down for 3 weeks and talk about what we want. So for 3 weeks, they don't write music, they just talk about, well, let's just not say no. Let's just explore, let's see what's going on. And so this writing process for Vapor Trails takes about a year from that conversation in January of 2001 through the ending of recording in December, and I think they mixed through March of 2002. So they really took their time with Vapor Trails, and then they released it in May, and it starts with this thunderous drum part and One Little Victory, and it's just a very high energy album. And that's part of the reason why I chose it, because it's full of energy. It's a very exciting album to listen to. And I think it gets a lot of unnecessary hate because I'll admit the mixing is weird. They had to remix it some years later because it was a part of uh, what has been called the loudness war, where you would compress the audio and then make it super loud so that now that we had this technology with CDs, you could play things louder and the quality would still be okay. So that was all the rage back then, but it didn't come out quite that well. And because of that, Vapor Trails doesn't get the love that it deserves. It's tons and tons of great songs, great songwriting.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Just so that my viewers know too, I have been listening to the 2013 remix because that's what's available on streaming.
Right.
So I haven't heard the original 2002 mix at this stage. So I don't know how much of a difference there is and all that sort of thing. I can say that this 2013 remix, it's a good sounding recording. It doesn't sound overly compressed and like those loudness wars kind of CDs do. So I don't know how much of a difference there was sort of between the two mixes, but
It is pretty significant. Like you can tell right away which one is 2002, which one is 2013, and even in uh a song or two, there's small songwriting differences that they added later. But I've talked to many people where they'll say that sometimes they prefer the original version. They think it has more punch. But
yeah,
I think the vast majority prefer the remix.
fair enough. Including the band, obviously, because
Right.
that's the one that they've included in the box sets and all
Right.
that sort of thing. So, all right. Well, as you were alluding to, the album starts with One Little Victory. And it starts off just so frantically. You get this barrage of drums and guitars, like just, it's
Hmm.
really, it just comes in really, really strong. And then it settles into a sort of a riffy verse with Geddy alternating between his sort of lower register and higher register singing. Um, the lyrics are about sort of taking the small wins in life, when life is getting difficult, is, sort of focus on those small wins, those little victories, as the title suggests. Um, I find the slower sections are effective against the sort of the fury of the rest of the music. I like it when it sort of slows down to a sort of halftime kind of thing. It's a raucous opening track, and I love the fact that it comes to a full stop right at the end. It doesn't fade out.
Right.
It comes to a really great sort of full stop at the end. So yeah, great opening track.
It is. It's not my favorite song on the album, but you can't deny the energy that it brings. And I was looking for it. I couldn't find it today, but I think they had the drum intro on purpose. Just the thundering drums for a few measures, just as a way to say, "Hey, we're back. Like we're doing this. We're coming at you." So it's a
Yeah,
real exciting way to kick the whole thing off.
yeah, no, I agree. And then we get into Ceiling Unlimited, which interesting title. I had to look it up and find out that this was sort of a weather
Yeah.
reference. Um, and this song immediately for me has more of a sort of an alternative rock feel, as opposed to sort of the hard rock that you get on the first track. Um, the lyrics confused me a little bit. Um, I think it's about sort of unlimited possibilities, sort of not taken, that sort of thing. But I really wasn't too sure. Um, the sound of this song is bass drums and lots of guitars. And I find that throughout the whole album, there's no keyboards on this album.
Right.
So that was an interesting choice, I thought. Um, and as I say, a lot of the songs on this album sort of follow this pattern of sort of bass drums and sort of 4 or 5 different guitar parts all playing at the same time. Um, this one, though, does have like a tasty but short solo from Alex, which I really liked. Um, but yeah, I mean, this, as I say, this is more of a sort of an alternative rock feeling. I feel like a lot of the tracks on this album kind of follow this template. But yeah, it's an interesting song.
Yeah, I love this song. Um, and I found that with many Rush songs, I can know all the words and lyrics and not know what it's about and not care because I think it sounds good. And this is one of those songs where I know I can sing along when I'm listening to it in the car, but I don't know what it's talking about. It's just such a good piece of songwriting. There's such strong melodies that the lyrics are a complement to the song. They're not necessarily driving the song in this case, I don't think. Um, and you make some interesting points. You mentioned there's no synths or keyboards anywhere on the album. That's the first time since Caress of Steel, way back in 1975, that there were no keyboards anywhere on an album. So that's a big change. And then you bring up the guitar solo that it's real short. It's not a long guitar solo by any means in this song. Uh, but it's not present on the 2002 original mix. It's just an instrumental break, more or less. So I assume that was recorded sometime between, I guess, 2009 and 2013. But I think it's a phenomenal addition because there really aren't many, if any, other guitar solos on this album. It's a lot of just instrumental breaks. So it was
Yeah,
a really tasteful addition, I think.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I didn't realize they actually went back and sort of actually recorded additional parts for the 2013 mix.
And I don't know if that was done for any others. That's at least that's the only noticeable addition of a track is this guitar solo in this song.
Okay, fair enough. So then we get Ghost Rider. and this one's very autobiographical. I mean, this
Yes.
is obviously alluding to the tragedies that Neil went through and what he did, what you were talking about afterwards, that big long motorcycle ride that he did sort of throughout the Americas. Um, it's the most poignant lyric on the album for me. Really sort of tugs at the heartstrings. Um, Again, musically, I'm getting a real sort of alternative rock feel. I love Geddy's bass chords on this, and he plays those on a few of the other songs on the album that we'll get to. But I'm a sucker for bass chords. I love it
Hmm.
when I hear those. Um, yeah, I mean, and then again, this comes to a real great sort of full stop at the end. Um,
With
but
those two
this,
hits at the end, yeah.
yeah, no, I like this track a lot. As I say, it's obviously very personal for Neil, this song. Um, and yeah, the other guys sort of, complement it with really good music that I think suit the lyrics very well.
Yeah, and I think one of the uh reasons this song is so powerful is because it is so personal to Neil, but you can so easily relate to it, you know. Everybody has gone through some form of loss where you don't know what to do with it. And that's kind of what this song is all about, where, there's shadows on the road behind and shadows on the road ahead, but nothing can stop you. It's up to you to sort of power through.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't know how to explain it musically necessarily, but this song always kind of gave me a westerny kind of vibe. It's still rock for sure, but I get the, southwestern United States sort of open road Route 66 kind of vibe
yeah,
from the song. I think it comes, I guess, from the guitar. I know when they played this live during the Vapor Trails tour, Alex would play it on a Telecaster, which was not at all uh, an instrument he would use live. I think he would write on the Telecaster a lot, but he didn't really play it live. So, uh, and that's more of a country, twangy kind of sound. So I think
yeah.
that kind of adds to it too.
Alex was generally more of a Gibson guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, especially 2000s on. He would lean on the Les Pauls. He switched around a little bit, but he kind of settled in the Les Pauls later on.
Yeah. So then we get Peaceable Kingdom. And this one has more of a hard rock feel to it for me
Hmm.
than the sort of alternative rock of the last couple of songs, but interspersed with quieter choruses. And again, I love that sort of light and shade kind of thing that Rush do with a lot of their songs. Um, Alex comes up with some really great textures on this song in particular. I mean, he does throughout the whole album, but he's basically his guitar parts are replacing a lot of what the keyboards did on
Right.
earlier albums in sort of adding those textures to the backgrounds of these songs. And that's why I say, he's often playing four or five different guitar parts. I don't I don't know how they managed this live because like there were so many guitar parts. How would he play them all at the same time?
I don't think they ever did play this one live.
Yeah,
And I know there are certainly some times in the studio where they would write a song with the intention of not playing it live because there were so many tracks. But I think what's interesting about this song, it was one of the first songs they wrote for the record.
yeah,
Um, and it was an instrumental originally. There were no lyrics. And I had mentioned they started sort of the writing process in January and it lasted the recording at least all the way through December of 2001. And the lyrics were added as a sort of response to the events of 9/11. And you can kind of hear the ones the lyrics are escaping, but the ones who need to hear us are never going to hear.
mm,
Uh, Messages like that where it's, we can get so angry, but if the message isn't received, what good is going to come of it? Things like
yeah.
that. And it's an angry song. It's you can hear the frustration in it.
Yeah, it's an interesting lyric. It's like I heard sort of through the verses sort of this idea that sort of the best laid plans getting messed up by the multitudes, as it were,
Right.
which would definitely fit in with a 9/11 theme as well. But the interesting thing in the choruses, Neil sort of leans into going back into slightly fantasy imagery that he used in the 70s, which was a nice little throwback, I thought.
Yeah. With the tarot cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's interesting.
yeah. And Getty's bass on this song in
Oh,
particular, wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
really driving.
So yeah. So then we get The Stars Look Down, which is another hard rocker. Um, there's a recurring theme in the lyrics of this album. Um, and it's sort of about being at the mercy of the world, sort of, feeling like you're helpless in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but trying to get through that and trying to get past that. Um, it gets a bit quieter and more acoustic in the section, which is, what is the meaning of this? Those sort of sections, which I really like. Um, there's a lot of riffing and atmospherics from Alex, but again, no solo as such. Um, and that's, as you've already mentioned, also a recurring theme of this album is the lack of sort of Alex solos.
Right.
I wonder if that's because he was playing so many sort of textural parts and riffy parts that there just wasn't any room for solos.
Or like it didn't serve the song, so
Hmm.
why add it, I guess. One of the
Yeah,
things I love about Oh yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say I could understand some fans being a bit disappointed with that though,
Right.
because Alex is such a great soloist.
He is. He is. Um, one of the things I love about this song, and you mentioned it being at the mercy of the world, I love the two scenarios he lays out, like a fly on the wheel who says, "Watch me choose my own direction." It's so confident, so brazen, but it's a fly on a wheel, or
Mm.
like the rat in the maze who says, "Watch me choose my own direction." Again, so confident, so brazen, but it's a rat in a
Yeah,
maze. What's the rat in the maze gonna do?
and I think Neil's probably commenting on how he felt going through his life before those tragedies hit,
Hmm.
and then realizing that he really isn't at the wheel, as it were, um, nearly as much as he thought he was,
Hmm.
or nearly as
That's
much
it.
as any of us think we are.
Yeah, no kidding. I hadn't thought about that as sort of a reflection on how he felt before. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very neat.
So then we have How It Is. Um, and this sort of starts off acoustically and then kicks into a really cool riff. Um, it's another sort of lyric about being at the mercy of life, at the mercy of the world. Um, yeah. Um, I can imagine why Neil was in that headspace, obviously, with the things that had happened in the previous sort of several years. Um, we're back into a sort of an alternative rock feeling here. In fact, I could almost hear a bit of a sort of a hard rocking version of REM a bit in this song. Like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
hear Alex playing the mandola a little bit in this song, and it gives you that sort of losing my religion vibe. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? But obviously in a harder rocking setting than normally you would get with REM. But it has that kind of flavor to it. Um, and then there's it's a concise song too. It's under 4 minutes long. It doesn't overstay its welcome. Um, it only needs to be that long, and I think that's really good because there's a song coming up. I won't spoil it just yet. That I feel like it goes on a little bit longer than it needed to. So I like the fact that they kept this one concise.
Sure. This is one of my favorite songs on the album, one of my favorite songs they ever did. I think it's highly underrated. Uh, what it reminds me of, in a sense, is the sound of silence, because the
Yeah,
sound of silence is the melody on its own and the arrangement on its own. It's very uplifting, very positive, but the lyrical content is somewhat dark. And I think How It Is the same way. I think it's in a major key. It's somewhat of a, energetic, upbeat song, but the lyrical content is about what can you do about anything? It's how it is, you know, you can't do anything about it. And it's such a stark contrast between the music and the lyrics that makes it work in a sense,
Yeah.
in the same way that the sound of silence works.
Yeah, no, that's a valid point. Nothing like Rush at all, but a band that I love that does that sort of thing all the time, sort of really bright, cheery sounding music almost, but really dark lyrics, is the band They Might Be Giants.
I don't know them.
Yeah, no, they're a sort of a quirky new wave kind of band. I mean, they're still going. They started off in the late 80s. But I mean, they one of their most famous songs is a song called Don't Let's Start. And it's this really upbeat song musically, but then it has lyrics in it like no one in the world ever gets what they want, and that is beautiful. Everybody dies frustrated and sad, and that is beautiful. So
Wow.
yeah.
They weren't messing
Um,
around.
but it couldn't be more different musically from Rush.
Right.
But they're a band that I've always loved. So I do love it when bands do that sort of juxtaposition of bright music, dark lyrics. So
Right.
yeah,
It highlights it in a way.
yeah. So then we get Vapor Trail, which is, I suppose, the title track, although it doesn't have the plural at the end.
Uh-huh.
Um, I love the chiming guitars and the bass chords in the intro to this song. Um, an interesting drum pattern from Neil too. Like the first half of this song, he's not playing a typical four to the floor kind of beat. He's playing more of a percussion part on his drum kit,
Mm.
as it were. And I really like that. But then it kicks into a more regular sort of 4/4 in the second half of the song. Um, yeah, it's a song about the importance, the impermanence rather, of sort of situations in life, that nothing's set in stone, that everything can just sort of wisp away like a vapor trail.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's an atmospheric almost solo from Alex in this one. It's almost a solo, but not quite.
Right.
But it's really great guitar part. But yeah, it's a good song.
For sure. I think the overall orchestration and arrangement of this song is great in the sense that it tells a story. Like you said, I think the whole song is pretty atmospheric, the way it ebbs and flows through different sections. Like I think of I don't know if it's a pre-chorus or a chorus or whatever you want to call it, but where it goes into the washed away like footprints in the rain, and you've got Neil going up and down the toms, um, somewhat quickly, but then Getty's vocals are, you know, that he takes his time. It's going up and down, very legato. Um, just a very ethereal sound, I think. I think it's one of the vocal high points of the album. I think his vocals on this song are just fantastic.
Mm, yeah, no, that's a fair point. So then we get into Secret Touch. Um, and musically, sort of the intro is built almost entirely on bass chords, and I'm here for that. Love it. Um, and then we get a rocking song. The lyric is sort of never that there's sort of never love without pain, um, but that the pain is worth it. Um, again, talking about bands that have nothing to do with Rush musically, but a sort of music where I came from as a kid. There's a Devo song called Love Without Anger. And it kind of reminded me of that a little bit, although the Devo song's a lot more sort of sarcastic and that sort of thing. Whereas Neil's a lot more sort of, uh, you know, from the heart, as it were.
Personal, yeah.
Yeah. Um, this is the song I was referring to earlier, though, when I was talking about how it is. To me, this song almost feels like it finishes at about the 3.5 minute mark or the 4 minute mark. And then it gets this sort of extended couple of minutes, 2.5, almost 3 minutes of music that to me don't really go anywhere. Like they just create more atmospheres and that sort of thing. That part of the music, I think really, really is crying out for a guitar solo. Um, so this song to me kind of outstays its welcome a little bit, just because that music at the end, the last sort of 2.5, 3 minutes, it's nice, but it doesn't feel very necessary to me.
Sure, I understand that sentiment. I personally I eat up the cymbal work that Neil does on the hi-hat. I think it's fantastic, but if there was a spot for another guitar solo, that would certainly be it. That reminds me of have you done A Farewell to Kings yet?
Yes.
It reminds me of Cygnus X1, where they play the one riff, the dun na 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 for like a minute or something like that, just over and over again. It's sort of a similar thing where I guess they had reached a point of creative freedom where they could do something like that and nobody could tell them no, I suppose.
Mm,
Um uh but my understanding of at least of the lyrical content of this song is that at some point along Neil's ghostwriter travels, he had met a lady that sort of opened his heart to love again, to being in a relationship again. And I don't think it worked out with her, but that was sort of the secret touch on his heart to open him up again, to not keep himself closed off forever, essentially.
yeah. No, fair enough too. Um, then we get Earthshine, and this one has a really crunchy riff to start off. Um, it goes into again an alternative rock feel in the instrumental parts, sort of between the verse and the chorus. Um, Otherwise, it has more of a straight ahead rock feel. So it sort of alternates between the two. I've noticed as we've been going through this album, it is a lot more sort of straight ahead than a lot of the albums that I've covered.
Mm,
We don't really have a lot of, progressive tendencies on this one or anything like that. And again, we don't have any of the keyboards to give it that extra dimensional flavor.
right.
It's very much a straight ahead rock album, this one. Um, and this one does have an atmospheric solo from Alex. A bit of a rarity on this album, but
Right.
there definitely is a little atmospheric solo on this one, which I'm really, really like. Again, wish he'd played a little bit more of that, but I do like this song.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, and uh I don't know that there's any double meaning about it other than it's about the phenomenon of Earthshine, and it's a song that rocks, I think, and I think you hit the nail on the head. There's not a lot of let up on this album. It's just kind of go 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 with rock, and I think if you're into that kind of thing, Earthshine keeps that moving. Um, and what rock band uses the word facsimile in a song? We were doing a Jeopardy little quiz on the RushFans channel a year and a half ago or so, and um, I was looking for words to use for one of the categories, and I came across facsimile, and I'm like, what in the? I didn't know what it meant. I didn't realize that that's where where a fax machine apparently comes from, facsimile, and who uses that in a song? And it works so well, you don't even realize that it's that it's this crazy word that nobody uses anymore. So I just thought that was funny.
Yeah. So then we get Sweet Miracle. And what I love about this song is this is where lyrically you can feel some of the hope returning to Neil. Because, some of the lyrics up to this point have been a little bleak, obviously for very good reason, based on what had happened to him. But this is where I feel like you're starting to get some of the hope shining through. Because I always feel like I obviously, don't know Neil at all, and sadly he's no longer with us. But he seemed to me like the sort of guy who always wanted to look at the better side, the give people the benefit of the doubt and that sort of thing. A very generous soul, I think. That's how he comes across to me in his lyrics and that sort of
Hmm.
thing. Anyway, um, you know, um, it's wonderful to see him sort of talking about the beauty of life in this lyric. After all he's been through and that sort of thing. Um, and I'm going to possibly get some of Rush fans hackles up here, but there's certain little guitar parts in this song that have a bit of a U2 vibe to me, bit of the Edge sort of thing going on.
Sure.
A lovely vocal from Geddy. I really love his vocal on this song in particular. And some really nice bass, some very melodic bass parts in this song, which I really, really enjoy too.
To me, this song feels the most, I don't know if barren is the right word, but it seems like they really let, you know, a guitar part or two, the bass, the vocals, the drum kind of be their own thing without adding all these extra textures on top. It seems like one of the only songs on the album that really does that to me. Uh, Personally, this is the one song that doesn't especially resonate with me for whatever reason. Um, but have you done Snakes and Arrows yet?
No, not yet.
So what I think is interesting about this song and then Snakes and Arrows, which would follow Vapor Trails, is Snakes and Arrows is somewhat widely recognized as Neil's sort of cynicism towards religion and how, he will let you believe what you want, but he doesn't get it. He sees hope and faith in other ways separate from religion. And it seems like this song kind of points in that direction as well.
Yeah.
I wasn't walking on water, I was standing on a reef, things like that.
Mm.
I wasn't walking with angels, I was talking to myself. So he's a very humanist, taking a very humanist approach to this song.
Yeah.
Which points to what you were saying, how it's, finding hope, finding a way to go on through some of the most terrible of circumstances.
Yeah. But yeah, I like the fact that this song has a little bit, you say there's not as many parts on this song. It gives it a little bit of room to breathe,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. There's a lot of space in the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you get Nocturne, which has some like the beginning of the drums in this. There's sort of regular drumming going on, but then these sort of odd distorted drum beats going on with it as well. I can relate to the lyric really about sort of dreaming, especially there's the part that always gets to me in this song is the did I have a dream or did the dream have me?
Mm-hmm.
I particularly resonate with that because I lucid dream sometimes.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a wild experience if you've ever had it. Yeah, I like the minimalism of the instrumentation on this one, on the verses, and then the choruses get a lot busier with those textures and that sort of thing. So you get a bit of both here. You've got in the verses, you've got that room to breathe, as it were, and then
Mm-hmm.
in the choruses, you've got all the bells and whistles, as it were, with the several different guitar parts and that sort of thing. So I quite like this song. Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoy it. I think the lyric that fascinates me the most in this song is uh the last bit of the stanza that's repeated several times where it says the morning says the answer is yes, where it's saying, dreams aren't necessarily just flights of fancy that mean nothing. It's, there's something to be learned from these
Mm.
dreams that you have sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes they can be a window into the subconscious, as it were.
Hmm.
Yeah. So then we get Freeze. And this is part 4 of the Fear trilogy. So
Naturally.
yeah. Um I love the fact that Neil adds freeze. You have that sort of normal thing when you're in a fearful situation, the idea is that you have the fight or flight response. And Neil adds the fact that sometimes you don't fight or flight, sometimes you freeze,
Mm,
you know. And
right.
I could really relate to that because, sometimes when I get really scared, I just, clam up. So musically, this is the most interesting and challenging song on the album. You've got weird time signatures and um, great parts like that I absolutely love. Obviously, they're tying that into, the other 3 parts of the Fear trilogy, which are all very sort of complex musically.
Right.
Um, I also love Alex's guitar part that sounds almost like banging on metal pipes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
It
this is head and shoulders my favorite song on the album, because this is the sort of stuff that I get into Rush for, is this sort of complex, strange music with the sort of weird time signatures and that sort of thing. I'm a prog guy from way back, so that's always going to scratch my itch, you know.
I'm super excited to hear that because I love this song and I know that there's a lot of people that aren't huge fans of this song. I think this song is fantastic. You mentioned that bit where it sounds like Alex is uh banging on a pipe. What
Yeah,
that always reminded me of is the song In the End from Fly By Night. It's
yeah,
totally different types of songs, but I think it might be the same note that that he hangs out on when it gets into the more rock part of In the End, and he brings it back and freeze. I think it's similar. But
yeah,
anyways, I love how this song opens up when it gets to the chorus. You know, you get the real syncopated odd time signatures throughout the verse, and you get to the chorus and you get these big chords and you get these, you know, fills down the toms from Neil, and Getty has these wonderful vocal lines that go from the top of his register down to close to the bottom. I think it is just so, you know, atmospheric when they come out of that super syncopated part into these choruses. It's wonderful.
yeah. This, as I say, definitely my favorite song on the album. Absolutely love it.
Awesome.
And then the album closes out with the song Out of the Cradle. And I feel like this lyric sums up the whole album, you know?
Right.
Sort of life is full of uncertainty, but we need to sort of burst out of the gates and do our best in the face of those sort of uncertainties. That's what I'm getting from this lyric. And I think it's a wonderful, positive way to end the album. Um, you know, more tasty bass chords in the intro. Absolutely love it. And there's some almost Who-like sort of frantic strumming from Alex, you know, there's sort of, you know,
Mm,
reminds me a bit of Pete Townsend going on there. Um, this album starts and ends on a real high energy note, which I think is great. Um, you know, there's some atmospherics from Alex to end it. Um, again, I really would have loved a solo there though, but that's just me.
yeah. Yeah. There definitely opportunities for solos on the album. But yeah, it great bookends for the album. One Little Victory and Out of the Cradle. And then something that I think has given sort of added context to this song is a few times on Getty's book tour that he's been doing for the past month or so, he said that when they got together for Vapor Trails and the tour and the next decade or so that they'd keep uh, recording and doing tours, they'd really loosened up. They would they weren't saying no to things. They were trying things they wouldn't have tried before. And I think this song really speaks to that, not just as a way for Neil to, you know, keep going with his life, but for the band to keep going, to keep playing. You know, here we come, endlessly rocking, as the way to end the album, to say we want to keep going, we want to keep playing music. I think it was
Yeah.
a great way to sort of reboot their career for the next 13 years or so.
Yeah. And I'm so glad they did, because, as I said, I haven't done Snakes and Arrows yet, but I have done Clockwork Angels, and it's one of my absolute favorite
Oh,
Rush albums so far. So,
it's awesome.
if not my favorite. So, absolutely love that album. So, I'm so glad they did go on
Hmm.
through this after this tragedy for Neil. So, yeah, I mean, I like this album. I don't know if it's quite up with my favorites, but I do like it quite a bit. Thank you so much, Eric, for introducing this album to me. I really, really appreciate it. To all my viewers, Eric is a regular on RushFans. I will leave all the links that I usually do in the description for the various RushFans for YouTube and Instagram, etc. Um, so yeah, absolutely wonderful. Please do like, share, and subscribe. It really does help the channel out. If you're new to the channel, please go and have a look at some of my other videos. I have everything playlisted, so if you want to see some of my other Bicycle Legs Discovers Rush episodes, there's a playlist for those. or if you want to see some of my studio albums ranked shows, there's a playlist for those. And if you want to see some of my appearances on other people's channels, I also have a playlist for those. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm at bicyclelegs on Instagram and Twitter, and I now have a dedicated bicyclelegs Facebook page. Please come and all give those all a follow and join in the conversation. I'd really love to have you there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.